god, here we go. It's not a clarification video. Yes, 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 yes. Relax, okay? I just got to say my piece, and then I'll go and make a nice cup of tea and get on with my day of work. That's the way it works sometimes. Okay, I did this video recently on the subject of the Midnight Game that someone recommended that I have a look at. So I had a look at it, and I did some Googling, and I came across it, and yay, it was scary. Why was it scary? It was scary because of language. You know, in my time, I've seen people be influenced by language to the point whereby they've committed suicide or they've got themselves angry enough to want to get violent, and it's just because of language. Okay, language affects people. If you think about it, language is one of the things which is part of the political environment of the world. It is the mechanism by which cognition is transferred from one individual to another. By the word cognition, I mean the ways of thinking. Okay, ways of thinking can be communicated through language, and therefore people can adopt or absorb those ways of thinking. And that can cause problems. It can cause problems for the individual, and a lot of individuals just look towards sources of language so that they can feel better, because they feel that, you know, a particular individual has said something which they have felt. Okay, and that goes with people on all aspects of the political spectrum. And indeed, people on all aspects of the political spectrum can have their cognition affected, so they end up changing in perspective. Okay, but, you know, I've known people die because of language. It can be quite a scary thing. When I had a look at the Midnight Game thing, what I saw there was, yeah, something that was a bit adolescent, or maybe that's harmless, but maybe it isn't. Maybe there are some individuals who are actually going to get negatively influenced by that. Now, again, through experience, I would have to say that there's different, you know, classifications of ways of thinking and different types of people associated with thinking that exist in the world. There are those individuals who will only ever see whatever they want to see, and everything and anything which is said or written, and these individuals can be difficult and scary, but there's quite a lot of them in the world. And then there's those individuals who will only selectively look out for things which corroborate what they already think, and those people are pretty scary as well. But these people, they probably make up the vast majority of us as a species. And so that's why we're under a tremendous burden of responsibility to be able to use our language properly and to be careful, because, like, new movements can be set up just because of changing the words that you use. You know, real movements of people who have very strongly held beliefs. Where do they get these beliefs from? Well, a individual who spoke, or a group of people who spoke, or a particular repeated meme which is being repeated throughout that entire culture, saying that, you know, this, that, and the other is true, therefore this, that, and the other is true, therefore this, that, and the other is true. And yes, logical fallacies are the method, or a method, one of many methods, whereby forms of cognition is transferred from one individual to another. And it makes no difference that it is irrational, but it probably makes it more powerful that it is irrational, because human beings react emotionally. You know, a large chunk of our thinking apparatus is in fact geared by and driven by emotions, which has some kind of connection to, funnily enough, the other parts of our nervous system, such as even our digestive system. That's why we get things called gut instincts. Alright? Is that a genuinely reliable way of looking at the world or thinking? No, it most certainly is not. But people do rely upon their gut instincts. It is an irrationality, because this is what humans are. Alright? So adding another form of irrationality into the mix is dangerous. And especially if the language is being abused or misused. I mean, I know I personally don't always rate the use of mockery when trying to come closer to the truth, but I use mockery against the idea of the Midnight Game because it required it. Okay? In order to help people to see that there is some things that was ludicrous about the Midnight Game. Now, essentially, if you can see what's wrong with an engine, and it's your job to fix that engine, if you don't do what's right to fix that engine, you are partially responsible for the engine not functioning. Likewise, if you're a surgeon, okay, you're a surgeon, imagine you're a surgeon and you go into the operating theatre, you've got your patient in front of you, you're doing the surgery, and there's something wrong there, and you know that's wrong, or you know that's a diseased organ or whatever, and you don't cut it out or treat it in the right way in accordance with your education, and you knowingly leave it there, then you are responsible for any harm which happens to that patient as a result of that particular injury. Alright? I mean, maybe the organ itself won't actually get even sicker, but maybe there's some bacteria that's released from that organ which goes around the body causing other diseases, if you get my drift, okay? And it's the same with society, alright? Because society uses language to try and make changes happen in it. Alright, language is a way in which people communicate and manipulate and move one way of thinking from one individual to another. And yeah, we've all got freedom of speech, and isn't that wonderful? And isn't that great? Because we're in the West, and the West is groovy because we've got freedom of speech. Yeah, isn't that cool? Okay, but that also means that there's an awful lot more people who are going to be using and abusing, sometimes knowingly and sometimes not knowingly, language. Okay? And the result of this is going to be the things which I have seen in other people. The development of insanity, the potential for suicide, the potential for assault and murder. It's all out there. Alright? And we, as people who are on the internet, are partially involved in the sea of ideas. So coming out against the Midnight Game was a good thing, possibly even a healing thing for some people who've adopted too many like insane or dangerous ways of thinking associated with the Midnight Game. So I hope I've done people a lot of good. I mean, in my work, I do use language, okay? Language is the mechanism whereby I do my work, because I talk to people on the phone every day. And sometimes, just like yesterday, I have someone calling me back. And I thought to myself, it's her again. You know, why on earth is she calling me? You know, I spoke to her last night, we dealt with the problem, boom, you know, why is she calling me? Well, why she was calling me was to thank me. Because what I've done is I'd used language to try and help her to see that there were other ways of living her life so that she can get over a big problem in her marriage. And she was calling me back to say, thank you, you know, you've done it, you've really shown me the way. And I thought, yeah, that's great. Language can be a healer, it can be used beautifully. But it can also be used to do harm. And it's so much easier to use language to do harm than it is to use language to do good. Alright? And when we see like movements out there which are, for want of a better phrase, negative, alright, and if we are part of the whole like ocean and flow of ideas and cognition, which eventually, in most people, will come out as some form of behavior, then we've got some responsibility here to do something about it. Okay? That's why I came out against the Midnight Game. That's why I regard the Midnight Game as being dangerous. This is why I think it is a daft idea. Sure, they've got the right to have the freedom of speech, to open their mouths and say this is the Midnight Game, and to create basically a whole movement and a cult around the Midnight Game. But I also have the free speech right to act against it, or indeed to create a movement against it if I saw fit. Especially, and in this case, when I feel that people's sanity, or indeed life, could possibly, eventually, be at risk as a result of certain ideas. Alright? Now, that might even sound a bit conservative of me. But I think it depends upon which particular ideas, and in which particular way, and how they're affecting people. Remember, I knew this chap who was an occultist. He was a practicing Wiccan, and I told him about the Crowdian definition of magic and the fact that he'd misunderstood it, and I explained it to him better, and like this entire change in his facial expression just happened like that, okay? And I realized that he had realized that he'd been living within a lie, and he'd been believing a lie, and he's been acting because of a lie. Alright? You sometimes need to have a bit of extra explanation given to you just to bring yourself out of it. And that's why I did a video against the Midnight Game. And I allowed people to laugh at it. I tried to be healing. I tried to create something that would be a little more positive.